Hey y'all, it's that time again. That's right, I am finally getting into the monthly report from July, even though we're midway through August. Shut up. Let's get into latest. And yeah, we'll be getting into this one in a couple minutes. So let's go ahead and get started with the roadmap roundup. Hello everyone. Just a reminder at the 1.0, blah, 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 blah. I've talked about that before. Notable changes, August 13th, 2025, release view, 4.3. All 4.3 cards have been set to committed. Sniper Light Armor Geist, Wicklow Light Combat Stealth Suit, which I assume is the Geist with glowing teeth on it. ASD Light Combat Stealth Suit. I don't think we've seen that. I am guessing. Well, we'll see it when we look at the release view. New hairstyles, dynamic snow, ladder improvements. They did make it in. That is very nice. Onyx facilities, Wicklow special ships, and the Volt sniper rifle, which recently got a nerf because boy was it overpowered. And the Kruger L21 Wolf, which we just got the sale information on today. 4.3.1, some cool stuff in here. NPC dropships, which we have seen before in the guise of those cutlasses that would come in, land, and drop off more people. They never really worked all that well, and you just end up with a pile of cutlasses stacked around the wreck sites where those missions took place, or the derelict settlements. But anyway, it kind of sounds like they're working on that, so maybe they'll work a little bit better. We've got heavy utility armor, adding a new heavy utility armor. So will this be salvage or mining or something like that? They were saying those sort of specialized ones will be coming in the future. Maybe that's what we got. Medium utility amber, or armor is the Ambrose. This car has been postponed to a later date, so they're pulling that one. AI FPS turrets, that one's been postponed. Mission pickup on location, that one's been postponed. So that was the one that you're just kind of flying around touring stuff, and you'd get motions or missions that were local to that area. But anyway, new hairstyles, that one's tentative. We'll be getting those. The LMG Fresnel, that's right. There is one more Volt weapon out there. So I tend to lean towards the LMGs. I tend to use the Damaco. I do really like the Volt guns though. So if the Volt LMG Fresnel is more impressive, I might be going with that. I do like the idea of beam weapons. Progress tracker, they redacted a creature. So I think some people have actually seen this one in the PTU. It kind of looks like a Copion, but it's more of a cat. I think it's called a flat cat or something like that. But we might be having more creatures out there too, but we're going to get something that's lean and mean. We'll see how that goes. Let's pop on over to the release view. So yeah, here's the NPC dropships, characters, the light armor. Oh, are they not giving us pictures anymore? Sad. Hang on, I got it. Let's reload it and see if it'll kick it on. There we go. There's the pictures. Okay, so let's see what we can tell from this. Yeah, the Geist armor. I'm sorry, that face, I can't look at that face without thinking of a pug. One of my friends has a pug, and that very much looks like their face. The Wicklow combat stealth armor. Okay, that is pretty neat. Yeah, I might have to go for that. And we got the ASD light combat suit. Okay, actually, I like that better than the Wicklow version. I tend to go black and red is the Carnival colors, so that's pretty nice. The new hairstyles, again, they're kind of trying to go with more quote-unquote normal hairstyles now. Yeah, so kind of the military cuts, I think they're pulling them over from Squadron 42. Heavy utility armor, we don't have a picture of it yet, so going to be interesting to see what they pull out there. Cortec, dynamic snow, we know we're getting elements of that, I believe, on Pyro 4. Don't quote me on that. Ladder improvements, very cool stuff. Onyx facilities, these are looking really nice. Very cool dungeon dive, lots of different things to do there apparently, and lots of opportunities to expand in the future. Ships and vehicles, of course, we got the Wolf, and we get the new Wicklow ships, weapons. We've got the Volt Zenith and the Fresnel. Again, these will be 4.3.1, the ones that are tentative. And then, of course, 1.0 is coming later. Let's go ahead and get into the monthly report because they had a lot of stuff here. So let's go ahead and get it started. Yeah, so AI content, they're still kicking through the AI wildlines, which I'm wondering if they'll be switching over to generative AI for this eventually. I'm not sure how resource heavy that would be since it sounds like Mark Zuckerberg is building a data center the size of Manhattan. I mean, CIG probably won't be doing that. Anyways, they talked on making the NPCs feel much more grounded and alive. They even mentioned the thing that I noticed where people are standing in line at Mary Pier of Heart, complaining and worried about regen not working. Yeah, it's a small step, but it's a good step. I still say stacked body bags outside the hospitals or respawning and having the screen go black as the doctor yells they're losing you would be a bit more impactful. But hearing the NPCs actually talking about things that are currently going on around them is a really good first step. For the AI features team, the cool thing here, they're working on new creatures, not just a new creature, but creatures. So that's neat. Guessing these are more than just the different variants of the Valakar. So storm walls, maybe, boreal stalker, pyro crab, maybe that flak cat. There's some options out there, but I guess we'll be finding out. Other than that, it sounds like they're working on polishing the existing combat AI, probably in support of Squadron 42, but with knock-on effects for those of us tooling around in the verse. Finally, they're working on NPCs covering each other as they move cover to cover. So, yeah, that's kind of terrifying. Might not be able to solo bunkers anymore if they get that down. Our favorite team with the longest name, this team's working on the prototype for new missions, tweaking nodes and graphs and adding features to make mission-making devs' lives easier. Lots of visualizations work from the sound of it, so cool stuff. While we won't see their work in action directly, we should be able to see the impacts of that work when the new, more mutable missions start rolling out. AI tech always seems to have their fingers in a lot of different pies. AI pies. There's probably a pun there, maybe. But there's no time for that. They're crunching away on navigation for NPCs, both on foot and flying around, especially flying around, which tracks with the whole NPC dropships coming back. Will we eventually see the skies of major LZs teeming with flying NPC life? Maybe? Seems like CIG's backed off that promise a bit. Well, promise, kind of suggestion. But it sounded like they were probably worried it might suck up too many resources, but we'll see. Other than that, they're kicking through StarScript and Subsumption, which should eventually make for more lively, realistic NPC behaviors. Animation. Sounds like they're mostly working on bespoke gameplay features for an upcoming PU release. Not sure what that means, but maybe ladders and sliding? Swimming? Maybe? There's a few candidates out there on the back burners of this project, and probably some they haven't told us about. Facial animators worked on a new mini-boss. Again, I'm not sure exactly what a mini-boss means, but apparently they need facial animation, so probably a bigger deal. It just seems kind of weird to blow resources on a mini-boss in a massively multiplayer game because you're going to be taking him out unless he resurrects or something, but no idea. Apparently they felt the need to get facial animation, so yeah, bigger deal. Also more mission givers, which is neat. Maybe Tessa is going to make an appearance. Maybe Recca Pacheco is coming back. Some of you will get that reference. We know Disco Lando himself should be showing up as a news anchor named James Harriman, who they're mocapping right now. I think we even saw that on one of their shows. From the sounds of it, he should be giving some kind of breakdown of what's happening in the verse, which again should make it feel more grounded. So I'm all for that. We'll kind of see how it plays out, but I'm assuming he'll be on TVs in the background talking about events that are going on in that particular patch or at that point in time in the game. Art characters, there's a short blurb on these folks, but it sounds like they're rolling out new armors and flight suits, which we saw in the release view. Still waiting on the Starwear features that allow us to mix and match clothing and armor and not have to cheese it by looting an NPC with an invisible undersuit and then making it work by somehow putting on the undersuit and grabbing the armor before the program realizes that you did one or the other and then does both. This should be the actual implementation where it really works for real and you don't have to cheese it. Ship art. This is the one most of you are here for, or like would have been here for had I released this video a couple weeks ago. Still, here's what they're working on. The Anvil Paladin finally makes an appearance. Sounds like they're having troubles with those side guns and they're still tweaking it. So this one might be more of an Invictus thing next year, if I had to guess. Next up, another ship that's been suspiciously absent from these reports. The Drake Ironclad is tweaking the interior to either add or remove elevators and stairs so the thing is easier to get around. Again, the Ironclad is mostly empty space, so it's hard to say how long it would take them to roll it out. In time for IAE this year? I kind of doubt it, but we'll see. The Meteor was up next, which obviously we got that one, so not much else to say there. Then we get into the unannounced ships. The last one talked about is almost certainly the Wolf, which I'll talk about a bit later, as it's the only one that sounds like it's at the end of the development pipeline. The first one is at the end of White Box, and that's about all they say about it. Typically, that means the ship itself is about 6 months or so off. So I'll keep an eye on that one for contextual clues. Sounds like it's probably a small one or a ground vehicle, because some of those contextual clues aren't there, which I'll get into in a second. The second one of the unannounced ships also just bumped over to Gray Box, but they mentioned that there were some issues with its cargo mechanism. I'm not sure, but that sounds like it's either an alien ship or possibly one that's utilizing some novel system like the Misk Fortune's box conveyor belt. And the third one mentions rooms getting geometry passes and refinement. That's typically one of those contextual clues that'll tell you how large something is, along with additional animation for its moving elements. Honestly, that whole additional animation for moving elements, that sounds GN for sure. It could be the Raylan, but I think they just mentioned the Raylan by name if that was the case. It could be Banu, but so far it doesn't look like they're going crazy with the animations for Banu ships like they definitely are for Xi'an. So I'm still leaning towards the Xi'an ship. Yeah, maybe the Drake snail is bigger than we think. Who knows? In further news, the Apollo hit Lot 0, which you can see this right here is the Apollo bridge, which is broader than I thought it would be. It's kind of weird that this and this aren't like usable space, but whatever. It's Lot 0. Pretty close to dropping in, I'd say, as is the Perseus. And so the Perseus is right here and almost certainly dropping for either SitCon or IAE. I would lean towards IAE, the November sale, just because it is specifically a ship sale and they could probably sell more of them, or they might resell it at SitCon and then have like further package deals at IAE. But I would suspect it's probably more of an IAE release than a SitCon release. And finally, Yeah, the Kraken is going through pre-production, and assets from the Ironclad are being earmarked to make the production of the Kraken a little bit easier. The community team. This team also exists, and they're prepping up for the SitCon presentation from the sounds of it. Core gameplay. This group always has a huge write-up, but it's usually their work that can be summed up quickly. Not so much this time. Not surprisingly, but core gameplay seems to be the kind of group that just kind of ties together the work of all the other groups. Obviously, freight elevators were and probably are giving them problems, so they were focused on those for most of July. I strongly suspect the August report will say the same thing. FPS and radar scanning sounds like it's getting close. And since we've seen it in action in Squadron 42, it kind of needs to drop in soon. Maybe not on us, but it would be nice. And speaking of the radar, or being on the radar, segue, the hacking loop is back on the radar. This is one that's been hanging on the outskirts for a while, but seems like it'll be a pretty significant game loop on its own eventually. Speaking of significant game loops, engineering is being prepped up for yet another tech review. And as deep as they're saying this loop will be, and the fact that it'll touch every single ship and every single player created building in the game, yeah, they need to get it right. For flight, they worked on the new flight system and quantum travel, the new way that we're going to be traveling through quantum. And the last thing they mention are drop-off lockers that'll be used in an upcoming set of missions. The question is if this is or utilizes a tier 0 of hacking, so that you can open those lockers. At a guess, probably not, but it would be cool to kind of have it as a simple version of hacking dropping in just to sort of see how it works. Finally, they're looking at crafting and trying to decide what the first iteration of crafting should be. Whatever it is, yeah, theme here, hoping we see it soon. The patches have been hot and heavy this year, as have the bug fixes and stability. It'll be nice to get back to a cadence where we're getting occasional new game loops. Economy. Is this a new team? I mean, they obviously existed before. We've been hearing for them for years, but I think they were rolled into another team. Maybe I'm drunk. Am I drunk? Anyways, they're working on metrics to better balance the economy now that it sounds like they're moving off of Tony Z's quantum-based economy, now that Tony Z has moved on to another company. Hopefully, we get a panel on this at SitCon, as the economy should drive everything we eventually will do in this game. The mission design team has had a lot of work and data over this year, with the focus being on events and mission-driven patches. Well, yeah, I mean, go fig. They're doing some work, but they're also using all of this data they're gathering to figure out what works and what doesn't. And for an MMO, these big dungeon dives, sandbox activity locations are going to be critical as this tech demo continues its evolution into a game. It's good to hear they're swinging back to older locations that don't currently have active missions. Honestly, more missions spread across the whole of the verse will keep this game fresh and give people lots of opportunities and lots of variety in what they can do. Like the mission design team, the narrative team has been real busy this year with a new event each month. So they're writing scripts and trying to keep the story coherent, along with doing a background world building. A lot of work, but I feel like it's paying off. While we haven't been getting new game loops this year, we have been getting a lot of content in the form of things to do and background stories that build up the lore of the verse, which was badly missing in the project to this point. The online technology group is still working on the crash handler, and yeah, the whole change in what happens with 30Ks has seriously been a game changer. The fact that you just have to wait a few minutes for the server to recover and then carry on with whatever you were doing in the moment is a huge change from the days where a 30K would likely ruin the night and, at least in my case, lead to a rage quit. In crafting news, they've started work on the blueprint library. So crafting is definitely in the oven now. With R&D, not a real long blurb here, but a pretty important one, as this team is now exclusively focused on game stability and optimization. That's a pretty big deal, as it suggests CIG is now confident enough in the core gameplay that they're apparently taking a step from what would typically be considered, I'd say, an alpha, although that term is mutable, to maybe something considered beta, which is also mutable and dependent on the project and the company. Time will tell. The UI team, second last on this list, is working on future gameplay event, which is probably this Dark Territory event that I think it just dropped a couple minutes ago while I'm recording this. The question this time is if this will be more on the B storyline, which is the whole regen failing thing, or the A storyline, which is the Gangs of Pyro. It's been a little while since we've seen the latter, the Gangs of Pyro, but I think they might keep going on this regen chain for now. I gotta go watch the video. The other big thing they're working on is the new UI for inventory, which is badly needed at this point. Sometimes CIG gets a little cute and decides what everybody really needs is a trapezoidal wheel. Eventually, they admit that maybe wheels are round for a reason, and it sounds like they're going that way for inventory. Finally. And the last thing mentioned for the UI team is that they're working on UI for an upcoming vehicle, which honestly, given that this is the July report, is probably the Wolf, as UI and sound are typically the last thing shoved into a ship before it's kicked out the door. And now we get to the last group. VFX just keeps going with locations, events, vehicles, and weapons. You know, little stuff. And that is it for the monthly report. Yeah, let's talk about this. So real quick, we got a reveal on the sexy beast, which is the Kruger Wolf. It'll be interesting to see how they balance this thing out, because given its size and cross section, I would expect it to be pretty dominant in dogfighting. Those big ballistic Gatlings, at least for those who are good at landing their shots, are going to be devastating. That said, they certainly look like they're bespoke weapons. If that's the case, this thing will have a pretty limited window in which it can be in the fight. So maybe CIG is finally learning how to balance these things out of the gate. Still, for the time it's in the fight, it'll be a problem. I still say CIG needs to roll out armor sooner than later, as right now it just seems they're playing whack-a-mole with their ship balance. And on that point, that's always going to be a thing. CIG is always going to be tweaking a ship as one ship, or tweaking their ships as one ship or another becomes meta and dominates combat thanks to the tweaks that they're doing. It seems like armor will be a big balancer with ship combat. The light fighter meta will be balanced by the fact that they typically have smaller guns that hopefully won't be able to punch through the armor of the larger ships, forcing them to be harassers, but not the I win dogfighters they are right now. I have a few thoughts about CIG should balance things out, but that's for another show. I mean, why have a channel like this if I'm not going to be an armchair dev, right? Right. Well, anyway, this is the Wolf. Let's go ahead and get down to the big important thing. Again, this thing is going to be very fast and maneuverable. Its cross section is small, and it's got gigantic guns, 2 size 4 ballistic Gatlings, which means they punch through shields and hit the armor directly. And they have 8 size 1 missiles, which isn't that big a deal. But yeah, you look at these things, 10.5 meters wide, 4.2 meters tall. This thing is tiny, so it's going to be hard to hit. And size 4 starts to sort of cross that threshold into being a serious threat to larger ships. Beautiful, beautiful, beautiful ship. So this is factory standard Rosso. Are you gonna show me what it looks like? There we go. Guess I gotta click it. There we go. Okay, now it's working. So factory standard is this. Rosso is the red Gofasa version. Damn, that's pretty cool. Frost camo is your bright white one. Also pretty cool. They're getting pretty good at their camos. Camo. Again, I think that they should go the MechWarrior Online way, where they just kind of sell the pattern that's overlaying the ship, and then you could pick the color, because you could have this be black and red, or green, black, and like orange, or whatever. You could make your own colors on the primary, secondary, and tertiary colors. That's how they should do it, and I think they'll move that way eventually. Anyways, heatsink. This is their glossy black version. That is pretty tight. And the Riftwalker, which is their dark black. Ooh, that is neat. A dark black and little blue piping. Yeah, gorgeous ship. I was expecting this thing to sort of be around the Arrow in cost. But instead, it's $100. So this thing is, I believe, more expensive than the Gladius. I think the Gladius is 90. So keep in mind, this is War Bond. So this is if you have $90 in your account and you want to buy it, this is how much it costs. If you want to CCU or melt something and buy it with store credit, it's going to be 100. Moving on from this sale, it's always going to be $100. So $100 is what it actually costs. The Arrow, I believe, is $75. So this thing is $25 more expensive than the Arrow. Keep that in mind. Is it $25 more value? Yeah, I don't know. It's definitely going to be a dominant fighter, I would suspect, with 2 size 4s. Especially if you can pull them and replace them with something else that makes this ship very, very useful. But I would still think the Gladius is ultimately going to be a better ship, but this is a very, very cool ship. But for $100, I kind of tend to side with the info runners on this, that you'll be able to buy this thing in game in like a couple hours of gameplay. So probably just wait. If this is the ship you have waited for and is exactly what you want, and you want to be a dogfighter and you want to be flying around in a World War II, 1950s sci-fi motif, this is your ship. Might as well blow the $100 and call it good. But again, $100, you could get a Cutlass and probably buy this thing in game in a week. Paints, again, we got all the paints here. Let's see what they consider the expensive paints. 3 paint pack. So it looks like the sort of metallic paint is the special one, so you can't get that one outside of this. I didn't see the Rosso on there either. Oh no, there's the Rosso. So the Rosso, Sylvan, and Frost are the standard ones that you can get. Otherwise, they're all special, and you can do the CCU. And gang, that's it for this one. Thanks for sitting it out. Like and subscribe if you haven't already. Throw me a comment down below of what you think, either about any of the things that came up in the monthly report or this wolf. I mean, whew. CIG is really, really, really good at making ships. I just wish that, I mean, that's artificial inflation, but I am guessing they need a record year with an online sitcom. No idea. All right, gang. Catch you next time.